Yeah.
We have like our...
Hi, and welcome to today's SEMrush webinar, where I'm joined by Navah Hopkins, who I'm sure many of you will have spoke to or heard of or watched before, well known. So I'm pretty sure all of you guys will be aware of who Navah is. Today, we're going to be talking about the CPC Map tool. But for anyone who doesn't know who you are, Navah, do you want to give the audience just a brief intro of where you work, what you've been doing?
Sure, and thank you for the intro, Craig, and thank you for hosting me as always at SEMrush. My name is Navah Hopkins. I'm the Services Innovation Strategist over at WordStream. We help folks manage their Google, their Bing, their Facebook. We have a software tool, an agency. What I specifically am very proud of the work I've been doing, been on the international speaking circuit, recently made the top 25 PPC influencers. And I'm excited to hopefully see you at PubCon come October.
PubCon, that's an event I'd love to get to someday. I've never ventured over to America. I've never even been in America in my life, but it's that's
weird. I feel like I've seen you at a PubCon, but
Nah, probably some other one somewhere. But yeah, no, I need to get myself out more and check out the American side of the world and see how you guys are doing it. Be a lot of fun. But so the speaking thing, is that something you're enjoying doing a lot more of, or do you still get nerves? What's your take on that?
So what's really interesting is that when you speak to a room full of 5 versus a room full of 500, the room full of 5 is almost always more intimidating because that's a workshop conversation, that's a debate, that's working through things. A group of 500, you can kind of get away with just sharing what you want to share. But what's been kind of interesting is that the trends of what we all on the speaking circuit share externally has kind of seemed to come full circle. So there's a lot of talk now about how do we go into the business, the core metrics of things versus, say, for example, the nitty gritty. So while I definitely still believe there's a place for the nitty gritty and the super transactional and actionable sessions, I think the more that you maybe go to sessions, the more you go to advance yourself in marketing, the things that to focus on are actually how do we think about our marketing efforts from a business standpoint, from a customer hub standpoint, from a value add standpoint, and then the execution just comes naturally. And SEMrush is a fantastic tool to help in that regard.
Yeah, it's one that I use on a day-to-day basis. So I probably owe SEMrush a lot of money as a result of all the information and data that they provide. But obviously,
they're altruists. They love empowering everybody.
Yeah, it's all good. So so this top, did you say top 5 influencers?
Top 25. So last year I was number 25. This year I'm number 19. But selfish plug for my good friend and colleague Mark Irvin, who took the #1 spot for top PPC influencers. So WordStreams, we put a lot of effort into empowering our customers, and we put a lot of effort into empowering our team.
Excellent. So it's steady progress. So next year, hopefully hit the top 10.
Yeah, that's the goal.
It's always interesting to see people progressing up that. So it's all good. So anything else you guys are up to? Is there anything, what's your next speaking gig, or what, have you got any kind of up and coming news just while we're waiting for people to come into the webinar?
Definitely. So WordStream actually has unveiled a whole bunch of new services so that we can actually honor the needs of our agency customers and advertiser customers in greater depth. So take a look out for WordStream Navigator and Assist. On the personal front, I'm very excited. I'll be speaking at Advanced Search Summit in September. I also will be judging the Australian SEMrush Awards. So if you are listening and you're from Australia, get those applications in. It is such a huge opportunity for you and your business, for you and your team, to get that nod. I promise I'm fair. I promise. But no, there's a lot of exciting things going on. How about with you?
I've just got a few speaking gigs. I'm going to India with SEMrush in December, which should be an interesting one.
Jealous. That'll be great.
So never been to India. I think there's going to be 2,000 people there. So really looking forward to that one. I've got a few other speaking gigs throughout Europe prior to that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the India one. Should be interesting. Never been, so should be a whole lot of fun. But I think
never order spicy food. Just get it mild. Get it mild.
But I think we'll now press ahead and start with the webinar. So what we're going to do just now is I'm going to go through the tool, give you a brief introduction of how the tool works. We do have Mira from the customer success team in the YouTube chat, who is more than happy to answer product specific questions. And after my presentation, Navah is going to give us some insights as to how she uses the CPC Map tool and some various other bits of good information around about pay-per-click. Now, after Navah's presentation, we will have time for questions and answers. You don't have to ask the questions about the CPC Map tool. If you've got any PPC questions at all, you might as well take full advantage of Navah's experience, because we don't always have people of that caliber on the webinar. So make sure you put the questions in the YouTube chat, and I'll get as many of them asked as I possibly can. So what I'll do now is just start sharing my screen. And why is that not working? I think Google Hangouts is playing up today.
I think you're in it. Oh, there you go. There you go.
All good now. So the first thing about the CPC Map tool is where to find the tool, which we always show people. So on your navigation on the left-hand side, you can go down to CPC Map just here. So you just simply click on it as you normally do with any other tool. And you can see the tool, the nice dashboard. It's kind of interactive. It's got quite a couple of funky features there. And you can actually zoom in on this map as well, which we'll go into in a minute. So what the CPC Map tool does is gives you data and insights into the cost per click in various different areas. Now, this is a map of the United Kingdom, where I'm based, but we do have America, which that map will be more familiar with Navah, and various other ones out there. And SEMrush, I'm sure, will be rolling out other maps going forward. So I'm going to select the UK just for because I understand it slightly better for this demonstration. So that you can obviously select, just using that there, what region you're going to be looking at. What country you're going to be looking at. And if you click on the middle one here, you can go into very specific regions, whether that's the East Midlands, Greater London, up into Scotland, which is where I'm from. And it will show the map on there anyway in yellow if you select it. And you can obviously select the currency of where you're located as well. GBP is Great British Pounds. So that gives me an idea of the kind of cost per click in Scotland. Now you're going to say, what is that going to do for me? How does that help me going forward? So you've got various different industries. So we have 17 industries at the moment, and these are all listed here. So you've got legal, marketing and advertising, banking, pharmaceuticals, travel, and various other ones there. Now you can click whatever one you like. I'm going to do internet and telecom. And what happens here is over on the right-hand side, you'll be able to see the most expensive keywords, the most popular keywords, based on search volume and the kind of average cost per click. And that basically gives you a rough idea of the kind of average cost per click for those kind of search terms in Scotland, for example. But you can then go down to the northeast of England, for example, where you'll see Scotland is 64 pence is the average cost per click for that particular industry. I can go down to the northeast of England and it's 24 pence. So obviously the darker blue is more expensive. The lighter it gets, the cheaper the cost per click is. So if I was doing pay-per-click for a nationwide campaign, would I spend all my budget on Scotland, or would I look to take advantage of, say, the northeast and the northwest of England, where the cost per click is actually round about half of what I would be paying for? So, you know, money, and Navah will go into this in more detail anyway, but budget is budget, and if you're working with a tight budget or you're just starting out in business, then you may want to understand where you're going to find cheaper cost per clicks. And you know, the great thing about that is you can utilize the budget better. You know, if you're doing it for a client, you can get more clicks and they're going to think you're amazing. So that type of data is pretty much invaluable, because everyone just thinks, oh, I'm in Scotland, let's, you know, hammer Scotland first and whatever, where they could quite easily distribute products to the northeast of England and the cost is half. So there's more profit for that business. And sometimes people don't think logically. Without being provided with the data, then they're not really going to think too much about it. So you can literally go through various different industries here. You know, automobile, local cars for sale is £5.01. I kind of click, and the most popular keywords are there as well. But you'll be able to see, you know, again, the kind of average cost per clicks in Scotland or wherever it may be. So you can actually work your way through that list and just check out the kind of most relevant industry to you. It doesn't have, you know, hundreds of different industries here at the moment. That may be something that SEMrush are introduced in the future, but you can certainly get a good idea of what the average cost per clicks are. Now, PPC demand as well and average volume, it's a different tab there. So just make sure you click on it and it will bring up a bunch of different data. So PPC demand, the kind of average volume, you know, it's going to give you data on that as well. Marketing and advertising, you know, 8.28%. Obviously, the higher this is, the more demand there is. But you can see there that, you know, cryptocurrency or online banking, you know, there's massive demands in those industries, and you know, there's a little less in something like pharmaceuticals, which is obviously going to be less. So there's less demand for that as well. But I think the PPC cost for me personally is what I would be looking for in terms of data, and you know, being able to kind of establish kind of cheaper regions and stuff like that throughout the UK if I was going to be managing a campaign. Now, the next tab along, which is compare, you can compare countries, regions, and industries at present. So currency industry, I'm not sure why that's taking time to load.
So Craig, real quick, I'm not sure if it cut out for everyone, but I lost your audio as you were going over there. Do you want to just, for the sake of the audience, repeat what you just said?
Yeah. So the next tab along, apologies if there was a loss of audio. The next tab along is the compare tab. And the compare tab allows you to compare this data, whether it's the countries, the regions, or the industries. You can compare that data. So, for example, if I wanted to compare the UK data compared to the Brazilian data, then I can get a good overview of all 17 in Brazil is 27 pence. So again, if you're probably working for companies the size of Navah who target various different countries, then you're going to see that your money may be better spent in Brazil, or you're going to get more bang for your buck in Brazil. So you can do that. You can also compare different regions. So again, you can compare the northeast of England to Scotland, which is northeast of England's 10 pence, Scotland's 22 pence. But you can also bring in more of this information, so you can compare that to Northern Ireland and Greater London, which will obviously be the most expensive, I would imagine. Now, over on the top right-hand side here, you can export that data as well. So you might want to export that data just to give the client some kind of information, some data, so that they can actually understand why you're making these decisions based on the kind of cost per click as well. So that's just quite a cool little feature over there. With
switch cameras.
What was that? Sorry?
I think you switched cameras. So a new version of you joined the meeting. So we actually can't see your screen.
Oh, man, I don't know what's going on here. I actually didn't change anything. Give us a sec to try and figure this out. This is maybe why they're going to do away with Google Hangouts.
Yeah, we're just talking about that how YouTube is going to own everything.
So has my camera, wait a minute. Can you see my screen again?
We can see your screen, yes.
Cool. Right, apologies for that, guys. I don't know what's going on with Google Hangouts. Apparently, they're doing away with it, and it's just all falling to bits. So you can compare data anyway, whether that's countries, regions, or even industries. So if I wanted to compare automobile to cryptocurrency down to fashion retail, we can compare that data as well. And I think obviously being able to compare data from country to country, from region to region, or industry to industry is a very, very helpful feature if you're looking to try and get some quick roads in to whether you're taking over a campaign or starting out with a campaign. It's always good to have as much data as you possibly can. So I think the CPC map in terms of regions and stuff, so we always compare keywords and do competitor analysis and whatnot. I think the regional thing is another great angle, and obviously the more data that becomes available, these things are always coming out, and that's why there's always new tools. So that is pretty much the CPC map. There is a user manual up in the top right hand side where you can click on it, and it will give you a lot more information on the CPC map tool, why you should use it and everything else. And you can also click on the top right hand side. Sorry, my screen is acting all wonky, to send some feedback. If you've got any feedback or any features that you would like to see added to the tool, you can also send that into SEMrush. They're always happy to take on information and try and better the tool. So if you've got any kind of ideas or things that you'd like to see, do fill out that box there as well. And I'm sure SEMrush will look into it and consider it for you guys. So that is the brief introduction to the tool. There's nothing else there that it does at present. If you've got any product questions, do ask in the YouTube chat. We have one of our customer success team on there, and we will now stop sharing the screen and let you get your presentation up, Navah.
Perfect.
Apologies for all the messing about with Hangouts as well, guys. I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm sure we will get that rectified in the future.
So thank you so much for the wonderful walkthrough and for everyone already asking those beautiful questions and already giving some product feedback. We're now going to take a deeper dive into what I see as the three main business cases of the CPC tool map. So the first and foremost, I want to talk about selling clients and also selling our bosses on the budgets that we need. Because different locations have different auction prices, different cost per clicks for different ways of searching. But then also we need to make sure that we're setting budgets that fit our conversion rates. So we'll talk about that. Then we're going to talk about two distinct choices, choosing your market and choosing your keywords. So as Google has evolved quite a bit, as Microsoft Bing have evolved quite a bit, to be fair, Facebook as well, there are certain locations that by the nature of affluence, by the nature of competitive demand, are going to be more expensive. There will be those that are cheaper. Where you decide to invest your budget needs to be a business case first and foremost, that you will make enough money that the marketing efforts are worth your time. We're then going to look at the keyword piece and how different people search in different ways in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and how we may want to actually leverage certain ways of searching over others in different parts of the country, not just because they're cheaper, but because when people search in those ways, they're more valuable. They're going to convert more. You kind of heard about me at the beginning of the onset. I work across WordStream's entire international client base, agencies, advertisers, helping to solve their problems, elevating and escalating trends so that our tool can be that much more useful. Our team can be that much more useful, and actually sending some of that feedback also to our premier partners in Google and Bing. And as I mentioned, I'm also an international speaker and one of the top 25 PPC influencers. One last shout out for the SEMrush Awards. Absolutely consider submitting. And if you can get a link in the YouTube channel, that would be awesome. So selling clients. Helping clients understand what budget they need is really, really tough. Clients are always going to, or bosses are always going to want to work with or have us work with as little as possible. But here's the thing. The CPC Map can help us help clients understand what budget they need to bring to bear. So as a rule, no bid in a search campaign should exceed 10% of the daily budget. And the reason for that is that a 10% conversion rate on a non-branded campaign or search campaign is actually really, really good. And so if you're banking on a better than 10% conversion rate, you're banking on almost the impossible for a non-branded search campaign, but you're also setting your search campaign up to fail. So when we're looking at that CPC map, there are going to be certain locations that are predisposed to meet that brief. There are going to be certain ways of searching that are predisposed to meet that brief. So Craig illustrated this already, so I won't spend too much time going into the mechanics. But one actually really interesting piece about how budget gets allocated in a different part of the country is, where is the data the strongest? Where are there the most people? So interestingly enough, some of those strongest cost per click regions, California, Texas, Florida, New York, ironically enough, tend to be where Google will put your money anyway if you target the US. So you really want to be very, very careful when you're setting your location targets, that you're accounting for where will Google and Microsoft, Bing to be fair as well, be predisposed to put your budget versus where will you get the most value out of your budget. So we tend to display impression share or of all available impressions, how many are you getting in WordStream software as a bar graph, because it's just a very visual way to see how much of your potential are you getting. And so a lot of times you'll be told that you're losing impression share to rank simply because you're budgeting for too many locations. There's too many auction prices in the mix. Sometimes you'll be told that you're losing impression share to budget because you're trying to bid on too many things and there isn't enough budget to support all of them. As a rule, I don't like to include more than 5 to 7 aggregates per campaign. And I also like to make sure that I'm consolidating my search result pages to be the most valuable. So when we're showing folks what locations to include, definitely consider leveraging that ad preview and diagnosis in Google and Bing, or Google and Microsoft ads. Because what you can actually show them when they say, okay, I can't afford this location, or I can't afford this way of searching, you show them the sort of search result page they'd be missing out on. They may be inclined to say, you know what, I've reconsidered. I'm willing to invest another $1,000, $2,000 per month into my marketing efforts. Or they may tell you, nope, can't do it. find me a different way to get the traffic. So one of those ways that you can get additional traffic is by actually looking for specifically different ways of searching. So in this client example, we have a machinery moving company that happens to do also rigging work. And rigging, by the nature of the keyword, happens to be so much cheaper than moving. So just by the sheer fact that it's a cheaper way of searching on all the different variants, so singular, plural, slight misspellings, one word being turned into 2 words, 2 words being turned into 1 word, rigging was able to get us that many more conversions out of our budget and drive down that cost per acquisition, as opposed to the company name idea of machinery moving. So be empowered to challenge your clients, be empowered to challenge your boss on going after maybe cheaper ways of searching so that you can fit in within the budget. But if they absolutely can't move, then just make sure that they know what they're getting into. So on the conversation of choosing markets, Google, as I mentioned, will put budget where the data is strongest. And if you target a country, you may not actually get the regions that you want, like 3 to 4. So as I mentioned, in the US, California, Texas, Florida, New York, in some order, will always get the budget. Whereas North Dakota, Arkansas tend to be, ironically enough, for the individual clicks, more expensive, but overall can be cheaper. So you want to make sure that you're using bid adjustments and exclusions to focus that budget. So when a market is worth the juice, or there's an expression, the juice is worth the squeeze, California real estate is really expensive, but that makes sense. Highly competitive, lots of population, limited inventory. So the average cost per clicks for California real estate are going to be really, really high. But you'll notice that the volume terms are not actually houses, they're apartments and renting. So you also want to be careful about where are you focusing? Are you focusing on the value of what you actually want, or the volume play where it may not be perfect, but you get enough leads in the door that it meets your conversion rate? Now, there are other instances, as I mentioned, it might be that misfit of the apartments. Sometimes someone looking for an apartment can turn into buying a house. I'm an example of that. I was renting for a really long time, and the math happened to work out that a mortgage was cheaper than renting, because Boston is not quite at California levels, but it's getting there. But there may be instances where some of these folks looking to rent could be put into a purchasing equation, but it's very, very rare. Odds are that volume play is not actually where you want to invest your budget. So be mindful when you're advising your clients, when you're building budgets for yourself, that you know what you want out of your spend. And just because a location seems expensive doesn't mean it's not worth going after. So sometimes what we'll actually do is we'll pull California or Texas, because they tend to, in the States, tend to be the most expensive. We'll pull them out into their own campaign because the value of those locations is so great that it's worth budgeting for. But we don't want those bids. We don't want that kind of spike contaminating our core campaign. So be mindful when you're looking at the CPC map. It's not just about identifying the auction price of a location and saying, you're expensive, you're cheap, I'm going with cheap. It's also about identifying what are the locations that I might need to build a campaign for, or I might need to sacrifice certain locations because this location is so important to me and my business. Now, size of population and affluence levels do influence prices. So for example, when we look at auto, California, ironically enough, the most expensive cost per click in California was cheaper than Colorado, but that's also because Colorado is a lot rougher than California on cars. And what I found actually really fascinating when I was looking at the data is that SUV dealerships in Colorado to SUV was the most expensive click in California, but the need for a car lot or cheap auto was so much more expensive than that really expensive car. So just again, different people in different locations think in different ways and will have different motivations. And as we can see, also the population difference is a fraction of what we see in California. So the needs are different, the competitive demand is different. And I've kind of made this point, but I want to make sure that you own it. If the lifetime value or average order size of a customer is better in a certain part of the country, go for it. You absolutely should not be stubbing your toe on trying to save money if it's getting in the way of you scaling yourself profitably. This is not to say you should throw money away, but absolutely, unequivocally, invest in your most important areas. We're now going to pivot to the keywords themselves. If you have any questions about the location piece, absolutely drop them down on YouTube. Craig will be pulling them up, but I'm now going to transition into keywords. So I've mentioned this before, but it again bears repeating. And if you're curious, absolutely go into Google Trends and do these tests for yourself. Different people search and think in different ways. And so what I find really fascinating, particularly in the B2B space, you see a lot of platform, software, cloud, hosting. Some of these terms are really expensive. Some of these terms are maybe cheaper, but the volume on research tends to be higher than the volume on the transactional user. So software tends to have more volume in the States, but platform more often than not is someone looking to buy. So again, you don't want to fall into that volume over value trap, but you also want to test in your own internal data where are your best customers searching and how are they searching. So going back to that Colorado and Florida example, we have here some legal terms. And what I found kind of tragic in Colorado is that the highest volume legal query or legal keyword was divorce, whereas in Florida it was lawyer. But bankruptcy was universal, which is, again, tragic. But you'll also notice that in Florida, immigration lawyer is present and is a top term, whereas power of attorney, legal shield, again, more divorce terms are prominent in Colorado. So when you're looking at even attorney versus lawyer, people are predisposed to match power of attorney, not power of lawyer, just because that's what it's called. Divorce attorney, divorce lawyer, bankruptcy attorney, divorce lawyer. So as you're looking at even at your own analytics and you see how people are searching, I don't actually like people bidding on both attorney and lawyer because by the rules of exact match close variant, attorney and lawyer will match you in the same way. You actually can see how Google matches you if you go into your search terms report and look at that match by column. You can see against the keyword, how is it matched. So in some markets, it will make more sense to invest on attorney. In some markets, it will make more sense to invest on lawyer. Just like in some markets, it will make more sense to invest on platform. Some markets, it will make more sense to invest in software. Now, certain keyword concepts are always going to elevate the price. I actually read this great blog post this morning. Fred Valleys put out kind of reading through the lines and how the cloud is dead. And I'm secretly really happy about that because cloud is one of the most expensive ways to jack up the price on IT keyword concepts. This, by the way, for if you haven't had a chance to explore, is the keyword magic tool within SEMrush. It is a fantastic, fantastic way to do that keyword intelligence. So definitely feel free to ask questions about that in the YouTube chat. But just bear in mind that there are certain concepts that if your client, your boss, you want that traffic, you have to be prepared to pay a premium regardless of the location. I do like looking at the CPC map, not just for the cost, but for volume so that you can make an intelligent decision on close variants. So as a reminder, close variants mean that Google will match you regardless of match type to singular, plural, slight misspellings, one word being turned into two words being turned into one word, abbreviations, or so on and so forth. So for example, if we're seeing apartment for rents, you may decide that that's how you want to go about your traffic as opposed to apartment for rent, because it might be cheaper. In some cases, the plural is actually cheaper than the singular, but will grant you, again, that same traffic. So you will want to test that in the beginning. You may want to be a little bit more open with your mashups in the beginning. But then as that data comes through, you can make those intelligent decisions. So I realized that that was a ton. I have some action items for you, and then we'll go into general Q&A. The first one is build budgets based on market factors. Don't build a budget and then make your initiatives fit it. Think about what you want to do, come up with a budget that can fit those ideas, and prioritize. Own your valuable markets and absolutely play favorites on budget allocation. It is not okay to bid on everything and be average at everything. Pick your profit centers, invest in them, grow them, scale. And honor the unique ways that people search and think by location. The CPC map is a great way to start. SEMrush has so many amazing keyword research tools. Google Trends is a great way to do this, but absolutely be empowered to take that extra step and invest in that intelligence gathering process. And with that, I'll leave this up here for a moment. Just if you have any questions, you want to tweet at me, email me. I'm so excited to empower you all, however.
Excellent, Navah. Navah, are you still there? Well, I think we have lost Navah for a second. I'm sure she will come back, but excellent presentation. Hopefully that gave you some good insights into the CPC Map tool, and we will get some questions and answers as soon as Navah comes back. So yeah, any questions, make sure that you do put them in the YouTube chat, and we will get them answered as soon as we can.
So can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Navah.
Okay. I don't know what happened. I got logged out, but like you heard the whole deck made it through, right?
Yes, it was literally the last second of the deck. You just cut right off. Yeah, you just cut. Everything else was spot on. Great presentation.
Okay. So you don't need to see my face. We'll just do general Q&A. It's all good.
Cool. Right. So guys, William Roxane, thank you. So any questions, make sure you get them in the YouTube chat and we will get them asked. We do have 20 odd minutes left, so we will go through some of the questions I've got already. So there was one guy in the YouTube chat, and he was obviously asking, how can I use keywords and CPC Map together? Obviously, it's not within the tool to do that together, but what would be your best advice on using keywords and CPC Map together?
So I want to make sure I understand the question. Is the question, how do I analyze my keywords and make intelligent choices? Or is the question, how do I budget and use bid adjustments?
I would probably guess, and I'm going to guess because it was earlier on in the chat, but I would probably guess, how can he just get his keywords, just make choices? I would go for that one.
Okay, so the CPC map in its current state gives you the highest volume terms as well as the most expensive ones. I would use those in conjunction with the keyword magic tool within SEMrush in order to find the close variants that will work for you, as well as identifying what terms, what kind of root terms should be the cornerstone for your campaign per location. So for example, Colorado versus Florida with lawyer versus attorney. You may need to have one of those as a single word on exact match within your campaign, but you can use the CPC map to decide which location should you start off with which. Ultimately, you can change it, but yeah.
Perfect. The next question is, what other tools, with it kind of goes hand in hand with the previous question here, what other tools within SEMrush does Navah use to collect all of the data to do full research on the kind of keywords to go for and the best ones to target?
So specifically, which tools within SEMrush should they use for their keyword analysis?
Yeah.
Cool. The keyword magic tool unequivocally do that. I also strongly recommend looking at the domain overview. I would recommend looking at what's it called? This isn't a so this is not SEMrush, but there's a plugin called keyword.io, and also Keywords Everywhere when you do searches, and it will actually pull out open on the search different queries and different keywords that could have resulted in that term. I am a big believer in quote unquote organic keyword analysis, which is look at the ad preview diagnosis, do searches, get results back. But the keyword magic tool specifically is one of my absolute favorite ways of getting that intelligence.
Excellent. Hopefully that answers your question. The next question we have is from William Rock. He's asking, when working with large campaigns, do you have a way to tell what word may be a close match variant across the entire campaign to reduce bidding on similar, like your law example?
So am I allowed to plug a WordStream tool?
Sure.
All right. So the way that you would do this within, if you don't have WordStream, is you look at your search terms, put the keyword in, the keyword match by, and the match by column, and you do a whole bunch of segmentation, and you look for that root keyword term. WordStream has a tool called the query stream, which will actually show you the specific queries that resulted off of the specific keyword. And then you can see the number of queries that resulted exactly matched versus how many terms that you were already bidding on had that traffic stolen away. So a very common thing that happens with folks that have not optimized for close variance yet, where they have every single spelling of their brand name, where they have a whole bunch of exact match keywords in different orders. You'll actually see that one or two of them have the lion's share of the impressions, but haven't in fact resulted in queries that resulted or that should have gone to those other terms. In terms of like optimization off of that, I tend to favor no more than 5 to 7 ad groups per campaign and no more than 3 to 5 keyword concepts per ad group, for the very simple reason that it's easier to control for variance when you build a structure like that. If you have giant ad groups, giant campaigns, it's almost impossible to not only optimize all of it, because there's a ton, but also to tell Google to put budget behind all of those different pieces. So part of it's structure, part of it's also just doing that analysis on matched by and seeing what were you already bidding on that got budget stolen away.
Cool. Thank you for that. William does have WordStream, he said, and he enjoyed that answer. So I'm sure you've ticked all the boxes you wanted to know there. Guys, just remember, we still have 15 minutes left, so keep your questions coming. Anything at all related to paid search that you want to know about, get the questions over and we will get them asked. The next question is there any instance where you would spend more than the 10% of your daily budget? You mentioned at the start of the webinar that you wouldn't bid more than 10% of your daily budget on a particular keyword. Is that something you stick to rigidly, or
so that's me being a pragmatist? So lawyers, for example, are the classic example that comes to mind, where a lawyer will budget, say, $2,500 a month for leads, but then their clicks are $200 per click or $50 per click or whatever it is per click. Sometimes you do need to to move off of that guideline. It is a guideline, not a rule. However, when you set a budget that cannot support at least 10 clicks per day, you are banking on a better than 10% conversion rate. So what you have to ask yourself is, knowing that your landing page still has that really difficult task of turning that user into a qualified lead, closing the deal, that your sales team still has to engage and close them, and they could be the perfect customer, but it's just not the right time. Are you willing to make those odds even harder? So I tend to be, with my own personal customers, fairly strict, but I also, if I know I can't win on Google, I go to Bing, I go to Microsoft or Microsoft. I might go to display to blitz the market and build a remarketing campaign that then my search, which I now can afford because I'm focusing it on qualified folks, I'll do it that way. So it's sometimes, if you can't get the leads you need off of search as your first touch, you should be empowered to look at other channels to get that traffic.
Perfect. That is cool. And the next question is, what's Navah's thoughts on bidding on someone else's brand? Do you do this, or is that something?
Do it. So, so I tend to joke that I'm like a PPC Sith, like power and passion at all costs. But in all seriousness, when it comes to competitor campaigns have a place, provided that you are choosy about your competitors and you actually invest the time and effort to craft creative that celebrates why you're amazing, not why they're terrible. So with competitor campaigns, I tend to have it as an ad group per competitor. The ad will speak to the specific reasons why you're amazing. And I expect the conversion rates, the quality score, the click-through rates are low, because the job I'm looking for that campaign to do is not to convert perfectly. The job I'm expecting it to do is to secure a random conversion, sure, but more importantly, increase my own brand awareness in a market that I would not have otherwise had access to. In addition, some competitors are pretty tricky, and they'll buy as their domain name, or they'll have as their brand name a core key term. So for example, Boston Dental. Like, obviously, like if I'm looking for a Boston dentist, for the nature of close variants, Boston dentist, Boston dental are going to be the same thing. So sometimes you can't avoid bidding on competitors. With local businesses, where there's maybe a ton of competitors, pick your 5 to 7, or even pick your top 2 to 3, because you want to make sure that you can actually own that process and have it separated, versus having a ton of competitors, and you can't be focused.
I've got my own question I want to ask you as well, with
Totally.
the whole bidding on a competitor's brand. So I'm just to get the picture clear, I'm not a pay-per-click expert by any stretch of the imagination. But if I was to want to bid on a competitor's name, would that be something you would recommend doing on a different AdWords account, setting up something separate so that
no. It's so, and there was a question in the YouTube that asked about copyright, so I want to address both. You cannot have the competitor's name in the ad. That will get you disapproved. Google it does not mess around with that. Thing does not mess around with that. You will get disapproved. It is absolutely a-okay to bid on the competitor term in the ad group, and it is absolutely okay if you're in the States. I know in Europe you can't do this, but in the States, to actually have a landing page that talks about why you're better than the competitor. In terms of the campaign, or setting up a new account, the reason you set up a new account is for one of 3 reasons. Reason number 1, there were other policy issues that got you so riddled with disapprovals that you just want a clean slate. Competitor campaigns are almost never going to be the reason that you have policy issues. The reason you would get policy issues is because, like, your landing page kept doing redirects or something like that. You kept bidding on parts of paid search that just you can't bid on anymore. So for example, payday loans, you no longer can advertise for payday loans. The second reason that you would build a brand new account is if you're going internationally. Google serves ads in the time zone of the account, not the user. So if you are doing your scheduling and Google has to account for that, you may find it easier to have an account per major market. So you can build out the campaigns for that market as opposed to having to have every single campaign for every single market in one account. That's just a workflow presence. And then the final reason is, say the whole account was a smart campaign, so Google Ads Express, and you wanted nothing to do with the Google Ads Express from the past, that's a clean slate. But other than that, no, competitor campaigns are so fair game.
Cool.
It's in the ad creative that you can't have competitors in there.
And I've got one other wee quick question here to ask.
Totally.
You mentioned there that there's obviously different laws in the US than there possibly is in the UK for certain things. Where would be the best place to look for to find out what you can and can't do in certain areas? Is that just something you simply have to Google, or is there a kind of central place where it will tell you like you can't do this, you can't do that in specific kind of zone?
I'll find the Google post for you, and we can maybe share it with the audience. But there is actually a hub of policies of like, this is doable in this country, this is available in this country, and unfortunately, the States gets almost everything right away and has all of the freedom. But you'll appreciate this. In the UK, you guys can like bid on gambling all you want. In the States, it's a no-go. So gambling is actually one of the best PPC markets, period, that we can't touch.
It's weird. Like I remember years ago, I set up an e-cig business. I never really thought about pay-per-click at all. I just set up a website, started to do SEO on it, and before I knew, things started to progress quite well. And I wanted to invest some in pay-per-click to find out that no, you can't bid on, e-cigs and stuff like that. That you just can't do it. It's just against the law. And I'm like, Jesus, it would be quite good if there was a place where it said, this niche, this niche, this niche, and this niche, are totally illegal to bid on. Because, people like me who are got the SEO background, I'm not really thinking about what's legal and what's not to bid on. You
Totally.
Just think, the search volume's there. This is going to be the big payday to then find that you can't bloody advertise properly, which was very frustrating.
So WordStream does something called an industry huddle. SEM, and I know SEMrush does a similar post where you kind of, and so basically everyone should go check out all the major software platforms, blogs and videos and all these things, because all of us will put out content about what's up and coming and what's new in the moment. This is legal, this is not legal, this is available, this is not available. But for the gold standard, this is the answer. I would absolutely go straight to the source. So this is like a key difference between PPC and SEO, where maybe Google isn't as forthcoming with SEOs about what's acceptable, what is not. They are 100% forthcoming with PPC because that's their business.
Yeah.
So the guidelines that you'll see, what is acceptable, what is not, how do you get approved for a thing, how do you not? I would definitely check out those support forums and SEMrush's resources, WordStream's resources, any softwares that deals in PPC's resources will be a good place.
Cool. No, that's perfect. So we still have time, 7 minutes left. So if anyone's got any other questions, keep them coming. The next question we've got here is, do you recommend using your own branded keywords in your Google Ads?
So I answered the question in YouTube as like an emphatic yes, but I'll give now more information for the general group. So branded campaigns do something really fascinating. They have some of the best metrics, so they elevate the overall quality and equity of all of your other campaigns in the account, so that when Google is looking to assess, is this a reputable advertiser? What kind of conversion data are they generating? That branded campaign gives it a really big boost. Second thing it does is it ensures that you own your branded page. You never, just like there was that, hey, is competitor campaigns okay? What's going on? Well, if you don't bid on your branded terms, your competitors unequivocally will. And it's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of it's going to happen. Do you want to be left out? With the caveat that branded terms, it's not even a caveat, just with the note that branded terms tend to be a lot cheaper on the average than your traditional search terms, which brings me to my next point, that if you don't have a branded campaign, oftentimes branded queries will get routed into your traditional search terms, artificially driving down the cost per click. So you think you're crushing it and doing great, when in fact, almost all those queries are branded. So having that branded campaign where your branded term is a negative everywhere else save for your traditional search term or your traditional search campaigns, it's unequivocally the way to go. And again, branded, be empowered to put a remarketing list on it that like it can only serve the people who have been to your site before, or if you want, exclude anyone who's come to you organically. You could actually take an analytics segment, put it in as an audience and exclude it outright from your branded campaign. So yes, do it and be empowered to take the precautions so that you feel good about doing it.
Perfect. Good answer. So you mentioned that you potentially look at Bing for other opportunities, out with Google. What other places can people go to for kind of pay-per-click that you would recommend to get some clicks?
So it depends on what the initiative is. I kind of look at all the different channels as having different jobs. So Google search is the salesperson. I would consider either the BDR or like the affiliate sales. So like they have about 30% market share in the US. They're really good at empowering the Google market share. With the LinkedIn acquisition, they have some exclusive targeting, which is great for B2B. But they're like the affiliate salesperson. So search is your sales. Display is kind of like the marketing team. They're really good at blitzing the market with those cheap cost per clicks. You can put in audiences so that you're filtering in based off of user intent. YouTube, Facebook is really good for community building, and you want to bid and budget for it accordingly. If you're shopping or e-commerce, you're kind of going to have like that hybrid approach of Google and Facebook and Bing doing your shopping. There's a bit of shopping on YouTube as well. But in terms of like truly out there initiatives, I like Quora is good for content marketing. I like it a lot. Let's see what else is good. LinkedIn. I wish LinkedIn's interface was prettier because I love LinkedIn so much, but it's so ugly. Amazon, if your e-commerce is both great and horrible, it's kind of like you're eating into your own profits to get at the volume. What else is good? So this actually came from my colleague Mark, but Waze is a surprising one that no one ever thinks of, but is actually super clever for local because Waze gives you all of the beauty of geofencing, or because someone's in a particular market, you can target them. And you get those impulse purchases that you never would have gotten otherwise. And Waze is just like, you never think of it as a marketing platform, but it's actually super clever. And in this mobile first spot, I definitely would look at Waze. So that's my answer. It's like the most unconventional one. Go with Waze.
I think you gave a good few in there. One that sticks out for me that, I've done, I think it was about 6 months ago, was Quora. Never even gave it a thought. And someone said something to me in passing, and I thought, geez. And I tried it out, and the cost per click was something like 6 pence. It was insane. And I actually done a blog post on it, and I had a whole bunch of guys messaging me on Facebook saying, take that down, we don't want any more maniacs in our, we're making good money from this and stuff like that. So Quora, I'm not sure what it's like now, but that was certainly good when I was doing a bit of testing. But it's great to hear some of those other, weird and wonderful places that you don't always think of. Obviously, Facebook and stuff are are very common. But yeah, it was cool. There was a good few tips in there for that. So we've got one last question before we go. Someone was asking for some top tips on getting their quality score up.
So I don't know if any of you know, but actually I look at quality score as a health indicator, not a KPI. So I've actually done several presentations, I've written several blog posts about why you shouldn't focus on quality score. However, in a minute, quality score at its heart is looking at historical click-through rate, your keyword to add to landing page relevancy, and your landing page experience. You control, in terms of what you can actually do, your keyword to add to landing page relevancy and the landing page experience. So if you're writing really good ads, you're building a structure that serves well, and you've ensured that your landing page loads quickly, is a good user experience, that's great. I will caution all of you, the lower the search volume of your industry, the harder it will be to achieve that good quality score. So I'll actually challenge you all that instead of looking at quality score, I would encourage you to look at your conversion rate against your click-through rate, because that's what that's telling you is, A, how engaging are you? Are you reaching the right people? And are those even the right people to reach? Like, is your ultimate salesperson landing page doing its job?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. But it's good to hear you saying don't always focus on quality score, and don't do pay-per-click, but I always hear that one being mentioned. Oh, my quality score's rubbish and stuff like that. So I've got a few friends that do pay-per-click, and that's something.
Quality score is a really simple way to explain a lot of complex things. So salespeople will focus on, like, if you're selling PPC services, we'll focus on quality score because it's a really easy way to explain all of the complex problems. Google will tell you have a low quality score because it can't tell you that your ads suck, or it can't tell you that, like, you're bidding way out of, like, you're going after keywords way out of your league. But it can tell you your quality score is a 2.
Yeah. Interesting. But sadly, that is all we have time for today. So thank you to everyone who attended today and all the questions and everything else. And thank you, Navah, for being on today. It's been a pleasure. And you've given
Thank you for having me.
Fair few golden nuggets. But yeah, it's 2 minutes past 6 now. So we are 2 minutes over time. So thank you, everyone, for joining. And I will see you on the next SEMrush Toolbox webinar. And thank you again to Navah.
Cheers, guys.